Mark, can I ask you about Jonathan Walters first? We were told he'd put in a transfer request. He wasn't in your 16 in the last game. What's his future hold at Stoke now, do you think?
Well, his immediate future and his future of the weekend is that he'll be involved with our game against Arsenal. I mean, it's one of those situations. John's not the only player that went through similar situations during the transfer window. Obviously, once the window closes, then you have to refocus and get on with the job in hand, which is playing for the football clubs. And John's a very, very good professional, and he'll get his head down. He's had a couple of weeks away. Obviously, with the international squad, done really well, scored a goal, so it shows his focus was total for his international team. It will be similar for Stoke City. I'm absolutely certain of that. It's not easy, the transfer window. It's not easy for players. It's not easy for managers or football clubs, and it is a distraction. But once the distraction is out the way, then you focus on what's important, which is playing football.
He's clearly not happy though. He put this transfer request in, and I understand that he wants 2 years on his contract in terms of the negotiations. Is there any way around this? Is there anything that you can do to? You want him to stay, I presume.
Well, yeah, I've said that until I'm blue in the face. I think every time I'm asked it, I say the same thing. Yeah, we want John to stay. Obviously, there's a club view in terms of the length of the contract, but from a footballing point of view, which is obviously what I'm dealing with, and what's important to me is that we keep John here if we can. If we can't come to any agreement contract-wise, then obviously at the end of the year he's out of contract, and you'll have lots of options, I'm sure. But I'd like to think we'd still be in the mix to try and keep him here even at the end of the contract, because that's our intention. We'd like to keep him here. Obviously, John will feel, well, we need to show that by giving him a longer contract, but it's something that obviously the club have a view on.
Have you had a chat with him? Is his mind okay? Is he really
I don't feel I have to. If I'd seen something today, obviously they all came back today. If I saw any change in his attitude to his work, then that's the time to obviously deal with it. But as I suspected would be the case, I haven't seen any difference in his attitude to work, and he's in my thoughts for the weekend.
You didn't appeal either of the 2 red cards against West Brom. What was your thinking behind that? You decided not to.
Well, appealed one, and we got a game off.
Yes.
For EB.
With Charlie.
No, maybe I think Charlie's come out with himself. He probably felt that his reputation would go against him, and in those circumstances you worry about the appeals being termed frivolous and maybe extra games being added onto the back of it. So we felt we weren't in a position to do anything about that, which doesn't really reflect our view on that particular incident, because we thought Charlie was hard done by, but we felt there was more opportunity to obviously reduce the severity of the punishment to Afellay, who got three games for violent conduct, when I think everybody saw the incident. It was far from that.
Do you think Charlie Adam is a marked man? And if so, what do you do about it? In the referee's eyes? Well,
it's difficult to say. I think I'm sure referees prepare for games in a certain way, as managers and players do. They look at the opposition, they look at who they're going to be coming into contact with, and they'll have a view on strengths, weaknesses of players and opposition, key players. I'm sure referees do that kind of work themselves, but to a different degree in terms of maybe the players that they're dealing with and what type of players they are, or their perception of what type of players they are. And sometimes that can, when in the heat of a game, when there's a lot of things happening, then sometimes maybe those subconscious thoughts about players pop from the back to the front of their mind, and that can happen. That's human nature.
How's Mama Diouf? Is he fit?
Man's come back. He didn't train today. He's still feeling the injury, so he's a doubt for the weekend. Marko Arnautovic got a real bang on his ankle. Got through the game the other night. Obviously, he's on high at the moment because of their qualification, and came in today, didn't train today to any great extent. We'll look at him tomorrow. We'll hopefully be okay. But those probably are the two doubts, along with Glenn Johnson, who has got a little bit of an issue with his groin, which just needs to settle down over the next 24 hours. If it does, then he's got a chance for the weekend.
Is Bojan ready to start?
Well, he's very close. He's very close. He obviously was on the bench last time. He's had the benefit of a couple of weeks more training, so he's very much in my thoughts. He's very close. I'm not going to show my hand on a Thursday afternoon, but yeah, he's very much in my thinking for the games ahead of us.
Last season, you lost the first 2 home games. You drew on the road, and then you went to Man City and won. Similar this season, you lost the first 2 home games, you drew on the road, and now you go to Arsenal.
Well, yeah, we'd like history to repeat itself if we can. It's always a difficult place to go. Our record in the Premier League at the Emirates isn't very good at all. The reverse against Arsenal here obviously is well known. We seem to be able to get the better of Arsenal on most occasions. At the Britannia, away from Britannia, we do struggle to get a positive result. So hopefully that will change at the weekend, ideally. But we feel we're better equipped, and we have certain types of players that maybe can ask more questions of them. Certainly on their own patch, they've had an indifferent start, I would suggest, in terms of their home form. So maybe that's good timing. Maybe it's a good time to play them on the back of an international week as well. People coming back from all places around the globe. Maybe that will affect them. It will affect us as well. So that might be balanced out. But we're looking forward to the game. It's always a challenge going there, but we've got players that will look forward to that challenge.
And finally, they only signed 1 player in the transfer window. They didn't sign. I think they're the only club in the top 5 divisions across Europe that didn't sign an outfield player in this window. It's an extraordinary stat, and Arsene Wenger's had some criticism from his own supporters because of that. Partly because they've had the indifferent start that you've referred to. What do you make of that recruitment policy? Are you surprised they haven't strengthened?
Well, it's not for me to comment on other people's strategy, but I think they've certainly the one recruitment that they brought in was one that maybe people looking from the outside felt they needed to address, and they've brought in an exceptional goalkeeper in Petr Cech, who will be a big player for them this year. And I just think Arsene has a real confidence in the players that he has and the young players that he has at his disposal right through the ranks. So he will always, I think, in preference, push players through from within the club rather than going into the market and paying for maybe players that the supporters and people from outside Arsenal think they need. But I'm not going to sit here and criticise that strategy. It's done quite well for him in the past, so it's not too far away from the right thing to do.
I mean, Arsene said in his press conference this morning that the reason he didn't sign a striker was because he didn't think there was value in the market there, proved by what Manchester United spent for a teenager who's only scored 11 goals so far. Do you agree with him? Do you think there is a...
Yeah, I think when you get to the level, obviously Arsenal are one of the top teams in Europe, and there's only a certain type of player or level of player that you feel if you bring them into the club is going to enhance the group that you've got. Obviously the level that they have within their squad is exceptionally high as we speak, so to be able to bring somebody in who will make a marked difference to the playing ability of the first 11, I would suggest, because they've got plenty of players that can bolster the squad, but to actually bring in a game changer that will come in and make a marked difference, they're very difficult to find, as most top clubs find.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, mate.
Mark, how's the international break for you, bearing in mind the personnel that you actually had left to work with?
No, it was fine in terms of a working week. We had about 10, 12 players that weren't away, so that gives us an opportunity to bring some of the younger players up to the senior group, which helps their development. So in terms of numbers, we were fine, and we got some good work into the group. Doesn't matter how many numbers. It's if you've got decent coaching ability, and I have within my coaching group, then you can have 1, 2, 3 players. You can still get a good session into players, it doesn't really affect too much. Ideally, you want good numbers to replicate game situations if you can. But no, the work we did during the week was fine, and all the ones that stayed behind will be up to speed certainly.
Presumably, when those youngsters get a chance, they want to shine in front of you. Do you get some eye-catching displays during training?
Yeah, well, we're able to have a couple of practice matches, and I was pleased with what I saw. We've added to the depth of the under-21 group and brought in a number of players. I mean, you saw the numbers. I think Sky kept on saying we bought 12 players. Well, 2 of them were keepers and about 6 of them were young players for the under-21. So it was a little bit misleading that. But the young players that we brought to the under-21 group, the likes of Moha and Melina, two lads from Blackpool, have really enhanced that group, and that's encouraging because that makes the club healthier.
In terms of Arsene Wenger's press conference this morning, he sort of defended himself. He's been accused of lying. Do you think, perhaps because we have so many of these press conferences, you said yourself earlier, I don't want to show my hand, he's in a similar situation. Is it fair to be accused of lying?
I think it's a little bit unfair. We possibly don't always tell you everything we know, but I don't think that's lying, is it? It's just keeping things to ourselves. So, no, I'm not privy to what was said this morning. I haven't seen Arsene's press conference, but it's a difficult role. We have to come before you guys, and we try and be honest when we can, but there's other times when we need just to keep information that we have to ourselves, just because if we give too much information out, then that can affect the thinking of our opposition. So you can understand why we don't always maybe say everything that we know or think we know. So it's a balance. Obviously, you try and be as honest as you can, but sometimes you just have to be careful with what you give out to you guys.
You mentioned there in different starts the season at the Emirates, and obviously West Ham went there and got 3 points. What do you view as the key to beating Arsenal at home?
I think the key is that you've got to give yourself an opportunity to win the game. Sometimes when you go to the Emirates, they invariably start quickly. There's a demand on them to take the onus of the game, and you have to be ready for that. And you've got to make sure you don't concede early, because then it becomes a really difficult afternoon. If you stay in the game, as we've shown against other top teams, then at some point in the game they will give you chances, because they do play quite open. They get their fullbacks high up the pitch and back their ability to cause you problems and look for overloads in wider areas, and you've got to be able to deal with that. 1v1 work, defensive work is paramount. You've got to be able to stand up to the challenge and deal with that situation. And if you can do that, stay in the game, then, as I say, you'll get opportunities at some point in the game, because they will give you chances, and I think that's been borne out in the games this year.
Mark, teams have found it difficult to put points at home across the Premier League so far over the course of the start of the season. Do you think that shows a more competitive league?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I'm not quite sure of all the reasons why it's happening. It's just an anomaly, if I could say the word. I think just at the beginning of the season, it's a little bit fragmented. I seem to have this same conversation with you guys every single year at this time of the year. It's what with the international breaks, you seem to get a little bit of a period where you can get some good work into the team, and then all of a sudden people are flying off to all places around the world playing international games. Then they come back for a short period and then they're off again. We've got another big break coming up, which will affect that momentum that you're trying to build in a season. That will be affected again. So we're not the only ones that this affects. It's something that you have to deal with and get on with it. But you can understand why maybe people's form is a little bit fluctuating at the moment, and just need this season just to settle down and get into 5, 6, 10 games where you know that you're working towards that game at the end of the week, rather than waiting for international games to take place and then bringing people back and trying to get them focused for games. So I think we'll be quite pleased once all the qualification games are over and done with, to be perfectly honest.
You talked about Bojan and him being kind of getting closer to be ready and him being in your thoughts. He was lighting up kind of the team and the Premier League before he got his injury. Do you think he can get back to that form straight away, or will it take a few weeks?
We're hopeful. It's not easy coming back from a long-term injury, and it takes some time just to get up to the speed of the Premier League. And in fairness, when Bojan came to the Premier League initially, he found that step into the Premier League a little bit difficult. First 4 or 5 games, it was a little bit harder for him to make the impression that we thought he would do eventually. But once he got to grips with it, once he got into the pace and understood what was required, then we saw him flourish. So it may be that he needs that same period just to get over the injury, but he's got the benefit of the knowledge of what's required now, which maybe this time last year he didn't have because he hadn't played in the Premier League before. So he's very close. He's working exceptionally hard, and every single day you see him getting better. So even if he doesn't start games yet, he's still very, very close to the starting 11.
Mark,
Yes.
when you look at the West Ham results at Liverpool and at Arsenal, and also the Palace result at Chelsea, does that breed confidence into you going to games at the big sides?
I think that there's a strength in the Premier League that gives confidence to everybody, I think, because I think that strength that the Premier League has enables teams that maybe in the past would fear going to the likes of the Emirates or Old Trafford or Stamford Bridge. I know when I was a player, a lot of teams would, when I was a Man United player for one example, teams would turn up and you knew almost immediately that they didn't believe that they could win games there. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think most teams go with the intention of asking questions of the top teams and seeing how far it takes you. We're very much in that group of teams that feel that they can go anywhere in the Premier League and give a good account of themselves. Sometimes we'll be able to do it, other times the opposition will be good on the day and we won't be good enough ourselves. So, but I think our attitude to go into the top clubs is probably more confident than it has been in the past.
Well, despite the referee decisions and the results of the last game, supporters bounced out of the Hussein Stadium incredibly confident and full of praise of the second half performance. Are you surprised by how positive all the Stoke supporters are?
No, I think they're encouraged by what they've seen. As I said earlier, I think similar in terms of our results at this time of the season, but I think our performance levels have been better than in my previous 2 years here. So that's encouraging. I think the supporters saw that. And in adversity, they want their team and their players that are representing their club. They want to see qualities in that group of players that were evident against West Brom when we went down to 9 men. So I think that's what was the encouraging part, because rightly or wrongly, maybe some people question whether or not we got certain traits within the team, but I think they were all put to bed by the manner of the performance against West Brom. So that's encouraging, and I think that was, although it was a defeat, I think we took the moral high ground maybe and thought, well, we were the better team on the day, even though we were hampered by two less players. All done? No problem. You're welcome.